Hey, Annie Purdue-Olson here of Leading Better Together Company, and I am super excited to have another Assessment Tuesday interview with Gayle Chaky. Now, one of the things you got to know about Gayle is that she was a professor in academia for a long time before she started her own business called The Savvy Scholar, and she works with high school students and college students that are really struggling with that transition between high school and college. I think one of the things you mentioned to me, Gayle, that really stood out is that students, when you, as a professor, when you were there, you were working with students and they didn't know why they were there or where they were going. And it's like, we shouldn't be spending this much money on college and not know why we're there and where we're going. And I think that was the impetus behind starting your business, The Savvy Scholar. And so, I mean, I would love for you to tell us maybe just a little bit about your business before we dive into the assessment that you use with students. So tell us a little bit about Savvy Scholar.
Okay. Well, first of all, Annie, I'd like to thank you for inviting me here. This is
You are so welcome.
And a lot of fun. So, and as you had mentioned, I spent many years in academia, and, I ran into students that knew they should be in college because they had been told that. I taught accounting, but they were in a class that they didn't like. You can tell after a couple of weeks, and I would start to really talk to them, and I advised these students, and they just, a lot of them were lost. They didn't know why they were there, where they were going. And, it is scary and it is expensive, as you said. So I really feel that if students start college with a feeling of confidence, it doesn't have to be a perfect scorecard. They don't have to have the exact plan for every single moment of every year. But if they have an understanding of themselves and what they would like to do and where they would like to go, and they have that confidence, they are going to do much better. They are going to be happier. If they have to make a change, if something doesn't go the way they think, they'll be able to handle it better.
Yeah.
So I really focus my business on getting them the confidence that they need to move towards a career that's going to work for them.
Oh, I love that. It's so important. I mean, it's such a key transition in our life from that high school stage into the young adulthood phase. I mean, it's so critical to have a guide that will walk you through that. And it sounds like that's what you do as the Savvy Scholar.
I love it. It's the best job ever. And I do everything from some students need a little bit of assistance and the other students, find the best fit college, and I do everything for them, but it's tailored to each family. So it's awesome.
And one of the tools that you use then to help students figure out kind of like how they're wired and what motivates them and get into the right career that they're going to love is the image assessment. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that assessment.
Yes. Okay. So IMAGE actually stands for Intrinsic Motivation Assessment Guide and Evaluation. So that's why we use the word image. It's a lot easier to remember. But it's really all about intrinsic motivation. So what is that? So we're really looking at what are the inward drives, the inward desires. And I have to tell you up front, the students, they love this. It's a simple assessment. It's 91 questions. It should take them half an hour to 45 minutes, if that. It's done online. So you have to realize, my population is ages 16 maybe to 22 because I work with college students that need to make changes. But this fits very well into their lifestyle, into the amount of time they want to spend on the assessment. So it's kind of been a win from the go for that part. But what is it? Okay, so it was developed by a Dr. Bill Millard, and it's really based upon your spiritual gifts that Paul described in Romans.
Cool.
Yes. So there are 7 major different types of motivations. And what happens is after they take the assessment, there's 2 reports that are generated, and I sit down and I analyze the reports, and then we go over them together. The first one is called the image report, and it's really about their unique pattern of these motivations. And we live in a society where everything is the same. You're supposed to do this career. It has to be done exactly that way. And really, I like to work with them. And we look at this. And first of all, I ask them, does this sound like you? Does this? And they're like, yes, like 99%. I mean, it's really awesome. And then we say, okay, in that first report, we look at what does this mean? How do you then interact with others? How do you handle problems, situations? And it's something that I say, keep this to go back to refer to. So it's useful. At this point, we're not yet really at careers, but it's useful in talking about relationships, dealing with others, their strengths, what it is that motivates them. The second report is called the ICCP, and that is the actual career compatibility profile. And my job is to move them from, okay, first they understand these are my unique qualities here and my spiritual gifts. And then I'm going to take that. And what does that mean for a career? And this ICCP, in my opinion, is a starter place. It lists all different careers. It's matched your unique set of intrinsics. And it's taking that and it's matching that to all different careers of people that are happy and satisfied in what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But as you know, you can't list all the careers in one report, right? I mean, and there's careers that are developing constantly out there, right? A student could start as a freshman, and by the time there's a senior, there could be opportunities that weren't there as a freshman. So what's really important is that I get them to understand, we go through this report, and I get them to understand, why did these careers come up? What does this mean? To understand that connection. Well, if you're this type of person, for instance, if we look at those 7 different basic, we have proclaiming, helping, teaching, exhorting, giving, managing, and comforting. So let's say the person comes out at comforting. Well, if you're really strong in comforting, why is that perhaps suggesting social worker? I mean, that's an obvious one, but a lot of them aren't so obvious. And then we take that a step further and we delve into careers that aren't even listed on the report.
That's so cool, because with the 2 reports, you're able to like get at the intrinsic motivations and then how that plays out in relationships.
Yes.
And then you take it to the next level and apply it to careers. And then being able to map those 2 together, you can say, okay, why does this career stand out to me? Yes. Like the most? I took a career assessment a long time ago, and my number 1 occupation was librarian. And I looked at that and I went, librarian? I'd never want to be a librarian. But then when I stepped back and had time to reflect on it, which I think at 22, I would have never had time to reflect. I mean, I wouldn't have never even thought at 16, no way would I have even thought this far, but I love to be a go-to person for resources. I want to know what I want to know, and I want people to come to me, and I want to help them find it. Well, what does a librarian do when you go into the library? That librarian is there to help you find the resources that you need. Well, of course I love to do that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And there's been so many correlations and studies done in business, and they find that people that are working in careers that are extrinsically, so I'm talking intrinsically, your spiritual qualities, extrinsically would be they're working for the pay, they're working for a certain title, and they are nowhere near as happy, and interestingly enough, they are not as successful. So I get the students thinking about this too, and it's just that whole confidence of understanding, gee, this is who I am. It's okay to be, who I am and have this combination of motivations. This makes me unique. And how can I serve others in a career and something that I would enjoy and bring something to society. So. Yeah.
I would think this instrument would help a lot too with just like, at 16, 17, 18, there's a lack of clarity and confusion about what's important to me that this assessment would help with. But also there's so many other influence about should. I should be this, or I should do that, or I should do this. And I would assume that this assessment really helps students extract maybe from the shoulds in their life.
Absolutely. And let me give you a generalized example because I work with a family. Okay, it's a family, right? So the student takes the assessment. It's a very personalized thing. I don't want anyone around. But depending upon the age of the student and the family structure, if they would like to sit in when we do the online, when we go over it, and the parents are welcome, and actually most do. So I have worked with several parents that have concepts, very well intentioned, of what their children should do for a career. And you're nodding, you have kids, we've all been there, right? And so we come into this, and I have the student is typically quiet, and the parent will say they're really strong at this and this, and we take all that in. And then I've had times they do the assessment, and we go over it, and it's nothing like what the parents thought. And one example was someone they were actually going into the military. This works for that as well, not just college. And their parents were sure that this person should be a coder. This, was very good at coding in high school, and that's what they should do. And after the assessment, I looked at it and I'm like, oh my, because when we went over it together, they were one of these people that was more of a manager, a comforter, not the type of person that would necessarily be fulfilled or use the most of their gifts by sitting somewhere coding. So the parents, they were both there, and they were very quiet during the session, and the student was like, oh, she really, really enjoyed it. And she was like, yes, this is me. And it was really cool. So when I sent my thank you, email, I was a little nervous because, this wasn't their plan. And I got back in a response saying, thank you so much. It opened her eyes. She's looking at things where she's working with people in the military, and her training's going to be different. And I see, this is something I see quite a bit.
Well, it's the difference, like what you were talking about earlier, between the extrinsic motivation and the intrinsic motivations. And what this assessment is getting at is that intrinsic motivation. So it's like kind of pulling back the layers of all of the external influences and saying what really energizes you. And as you talked about that student, I could just see this like young woman like getting all excited and her eyes lighting up as you're tapping into that intrinsic motivation.
Yes. And it just opened up eyes. So it's good. Sometimes I get a family that the student is pretty sure what they want to do, and the parents agree. And that is exactly confirmed, and that's fine. But even with them, that gives them confidence. Okay, I'm on the right path.
Yeah. Yes.
Or I get the associates, the ones transferring from community college. I just want to make sure maybe they haven't picked their major. When I'm going to now, am I on the right? So it really works well that way too. So.
Well, and it sounds to me like it's not just the assessment that you use in really taking students on this journey from confusion to confidence, in a sense, So talk to me about like how, what are the ways that people, it's not only just the assessment, but they're building on that assessment in some way in their work with you. So talk to me about that, like how do people build on the assessment and the awareness that it creates for them?
Well, the initial report, as I mentioned, talks about the relationships, and I tell them keep that, and it's in pretty simple language. And I say, because you may need to refer back to that later on because it gives you some nice like warnings and ideas in dealing with others and things that you might go a little overboard on or be careful with. So that's a lifelong thing. And I think just the awareness of that, specifically, we start out with, okay, this will help them select a major, narrow down a major or multiple majors. And of course, later on, moving into a career then when they graduate, because a major doesn't necessarily always point to your career.
True.
It depends. So these are things that they can use moving forward. But I think that this awareness that it's important to really like and be engaged in what you do is just so important moving forward. So maybe that opportunity will come up to get a promotion, but you know it's something that you're really not going to want to do. Maybe, you know, you'll use that knowledge to say, wow, you know, maybe I better step back. Let me think about it a little bit more because I love what I'm doing here. Or maybe it would cause you to change things because the path you thought isn't what you thought it should be. And you really say, well, you know, I'm not really using my gifts after all. I want to move into something else. I had one fun story. I worked with a young lady and everything was great. And 6 months later, I heard from her mom. And she said, you know what? She said, my life has changed now. My daughter's gone off to college. I want to change my career. I want to do that assessment. She said, because my daughter loved it and she had seen us go through it. So she went and took the assessment because she was making a change. I mean, it's not that it has to be, you know, I happen to use it with young people and it works well with them. And we had a blast. I mean, we spent like 2 hours going over her and she just was so excited because this was, you know, she also was at an intersection in her life. Yeah. So I thought that was fun.
Yep. I mean, I talk with a lot of parents that are becoming empty nesters and they are like they're asking re-career kinds of questions all the time. So yeah. What a neat resource. You know, I think as far as like how it's so important to like move students from this place of confusion to confidence. And it sounds like it's not just the assessment to do that, but it's also the conversation and the way that you unpack the assessment and then helping them create a plan and putting those things all together really creates that positioning of confidence and being able to go forward with confidence into the college or military or even the next steps as a young adult to be able to know even what job you should take, you know, in going forward or technical college. It seems like a really valuable resource for that.
It's unfortunately Generation Z, which is our current, you know, young population, is the most, and you probably know this, but is the most anxiety-ridden generation we've ever had in the United States. Anxiety is number one. So I think anything that we can do, whether it be a coach, whether it be a parent, a teacher, anything that we can do to help instill confidence, because this generation is lacking in confidence, not through fault of their own, but we know social media and just everything that's out there right now, violence and different things. Yeah. So any small piece, anything that we can do to help them get that footing, to help them realize that they've got a plan. Also, this generation is much more aware of student debt.
Yeah.
So yeah. The millennials are drowning in student debt. Yeah. However, this generation has heard all about it, right? It's all over the news constantly. So they're very aware of that. And the students I'm working with now, they want to be more sure or feel like they have a path. They're a different breed. It's very important to them because they don't want that debt.
Yeah.
So again, I think anything we can do, it's very hard to be young now.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I definitely have, having a young adult and a Generation Z, have noticed and experienced both of the things that you're talking about, the higher level of anxiety, wanting more surety before moving forward, the fear of debt, all a reality as these kids are just facing college and choices. And, you know, one of the things I think that is important to point out is that you work with students all over the country.
Yes, I do, and I love that. And this is the perfect mode. I mean, I've talked with students. They have this set up in their study rooms. They have it in their bedrooms. They have it all over the place where we can video, and then as I continue to work with them when we have different sessions, they don't even flinch at this.
I know.
They're just, to them, this is great. In the winter, I'm in New York, so if the weather's bad here or other parts of the country, nobody has to leave. I mean, if they have sports, because that's a big issue, is a lot of them have sports. So, you know, we can hop on at 8:30 or they can get delayed. You know, they text me, okay, I'm sorry, my basketball went over. I'm like, yeah, fine. Okay, let's hop on at 9 o'clock, you know, which is fine with me. So, yes, this particular mode is just awesome to be able to do this. And even when we go over the reports, the parents just sit in the room in the background and they can chime in, you know, it's very comfortable.
Yeah, I love that you can do that for anyone in the country. You know, one of the things we were talking about before we got to recording was just how this season of transition, because we're heading into September, and this is going to air on September 3rd, and probably, you know, second week of school for most students. And a lot of times that students are waiting until, you know, they hit that October season, and you know, maybe they haven't gotten into the college that they expected to get into, or they're starting to panic because it's senior year and they don't have a plan, and they wait until like they get to that panic stage before they reach out to you. So I want to like pull that back and say, hey, we're the first week of September here, parents, students, now is the time. So like, how do people reach out to you now before they're in crisis, and ask some of the questions and go through the journey with you now before they get the end of October and panicked?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And actually, I have a couple of resources. My business is called The Savvy Scholar, but I have a Facebook page, and I also have a group called Journey to College, which they're all, you know, free groups. And on my Facebook page, I'm always putting out information. And Thursday nights, it's not quite every Thursday, but at least twice a month, sometimes more often as we get busier. It was a little slower in the summer, but right now, Thursday nights at 7:30, I do what's called the Thursday College Cafe. And I pick a general topic and I throw it out there. It's a Facebook Live. People can come on, they can listen to the replay, they can post questions. I'm doing one tomorrow night about the FAFSA because that opens October 1st.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of ways to reach me and just ask questions. Email me, GCHAKY at The Savvy Scholar. And I would love to chat with you. I also do, if you would like me to do a presentation, I do a college info presentation. I can do that online. And really quick, I also do, one of the things in my heart here is I do presentations on bridging your faith to college.
Oh, what a neat.
That could be a whole nother, I adore that. And I've got some great ideas for both parents and students. And that's a whole separate topic I could go on with.
Yeah.
Necessity. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to, you know, even at a distance, talk to people online about that. So.
Yeah. Well, and I even think about some of my clients, the people that follow my page are ministry leaders, because I work a lot with ministry leaders and pastors of churches. And I would think even youth pastors, you know, as they're trying to help these seniors do their final year in the youth ministry well, and then set the stage for what is next for them, to have you come and do like a small group meeting via video with some of the students that are interested and have questions. And you could do an interactive kind of webinar session like this with them. So to just really encourage, you know, it's not just parents, it's youth pastors, it's counselors at schools, it's teachers. We all have a role to play in these students' lives to be able to help them move into the next phase of their life well, and recognizing that our Gen Z they need help moving beyond the anxiety. We need this kind of a role more now in our society than ever before. So I really appreciate what you do. Thank you for being on the interview today. And I look forward to hearing more about what you do. And this image assessment was totally intriguing. I love the idea of like getting at those intrinsic motivations early in life, to know that how many career choices, bad choices, could be saved by tapping into that at such an early age. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. And I enjoyed speaking with you, Annie. It's always a pleasure. And I love your enthusiasm. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we will talk soon.
Take care.
Bye.